to the workshop. Here we are again at the Warco. As we did in the last video, we made and fitted our riser block, and as mentioned about a DRO, fitting a DRO to the milling machine. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. The DRO is sitting here, it's all in its boxes, so let's open it up and have a look. Right, well, there's the boxes. As you can see, in the best traditions, it's China's finest exports. So we'll grab a knife, let's have the boxes open. So we've already hit the first problem, where to put the bracket, because anybody with one of these machines will know there's not a flat surface on it. So we're going to fix it to the wall, like so, and then that will put us roughly in the same place as if it was fixed to the machine. Plus it stops a lot of vibration, which is good. So we just need to tighten that up. Bloody Chinese M8, and it's a 14mm spanner. Lovely. And then our display will fit very nicely on there. That's the easy bit. And here is the next challenge, where to put the scale for the X direction. As you can see, there's a lot going on the front of this table. We've got the stops, which hit the mechanical stop to stop it over travelling, plus they also kill the table feed. So the table feed, you can set this for how much stroke you want on the table feed. Plus we also have table locks. So if you're doing any cutting, once you're where you want to be, you can lock the table, stop it shaking about. All of this needs to be accessible. Okay, so the obvious thing is we put the scale on the back. No, because what happens there is we're now going to reduce the amount of Y travel we get. And to be fair, there's not a great deal as it is, so I don't want to make it any less. So somehow we're going to have to put the scale on the front. It's amazing the difference a cup of tea can make. So I think we've come up with a bit of a plan. There is a T-slot in the front of the table. So I think we're going to make up some little T-nuts to go in there. We'll make up some standoffs, and we're going to put the scale somewhere about there. That way we can still get behind to the table locks and the adjustments. And then, as luck would have it, this mechanical stop is static, so we can make a bracket off of that, and that will hold. So the table then will be able to move. Oh, I've lost my spacer. The table will be able to move, but the transducer, or the encoder, will be statically mounted. That means we haven't got to worry about the cable, so we can route the cable nice and tucked away between the table feed gearbox. So, T-nuts. Who doesn't love a side project? I've got no T-nuts, so now I've got to make some. So we've got our T-nuts, which are all nicely blacked up and freshly oiled. So there's the T-nuts and the standoffs that we've done. We've done a 5mm thread to screw into the T-nut. We've also done a flat that we can get a spanner onto to tighten it up, so that's good. And then we've got a 5mm thread in the back where the slide, or the scale rather, will fit to. So now we can go ahead and fit it to the table. Right, well there's the X scale mounted to the table with our newly created hardware. Now we just need to work out how we're going to fix the encoder. And I think for that we're going to use one of the brackets that's been supplied, because obviously the holes are made to fit the bottom of the encoder, and I think with a little bit of adaptation we can get it to fit on the bracket that the mechanical stop uses. Well, you know what they say about all the best laid plans, and I thought this was going to be the easy bit, but as you can see, with the bracket in place, the bracket is going to fall halfway through the screw holes for the mechanical stop. So plan B then. Right, well thanks to the miracle of PG tips, I think we've got enough play. Luckily these come with a fair bit of wiggle room in there. So this gap behind here, between the encoder and the mechanical stop, I can make about 10mm. So I think the idea is going to be, we're going to put a transition bracket on top of that, and then drill through, spot these holes and mount the encoder. Right, well here we are, and the block is now installed, screwed onto the original mechanical stop, and then we've just transferred the holes through, and that holds everything nice and rigid. Everything is nice and accessible. We can get to our table locks, and we've got room down the back to get to our table adjustments for the feed switches. So I think we can call that one done. That's 1 out of 3. Okay, next problem, which is going to be where to put the Y travel scale. Ideally, that's a nice tidy place to put it, but the problem with that is it's going to mean a rather large bracket coming down and across to the encoder, which then cuts off my access to the table locks. So I can't really get it there with any degree of reliability. I can't get it above because there just isn't the room, again, without blocking off the table locks. So let's have a look around the other side. And this side's going to be even worse because there's no room there. Got a dirty great big table gearbox in the way, and we've got nothing around the back. So what do we do? The only place I can really see that could be viable is here. This is the bottom of the knee casting that rises up and down. So I'm thinking we could put the Y scale on there, and then we can build some sort of bracket from the gearbox onto the encoder. The only thing we might need to do is to restrict the down travel a little bit, just in case there's any rubbish and swarf in the bottom of the tray when we come all the way down. But that, to me, seems to be the cleanest solution. It's obviously going to mean we're going to have to make some sort of bracketry on this end to hold this end of the scale. But the scale will be static and the encoder will have to move as it will be bracketed to the gearbox, which does leave a bit of a problem, obviously, with leaving slack, enough slack in the cable. But I think one problem at a time, so that's looking favourite. Whoever said it was going to be easy, eh? Oh, you know. Well, after a cup of tea and thinking about it, guess what? Yep, I've changed my mind again. So I've made these extended table locks to bring them out of the problem area and outside the bracket so that we can mount them above the knee adjustment. And here they are installed. So as you can now see, they're on the outside of the table traverse casting, so that allows us to drop our plate down and in towards the encoder without the need for having to get in this gap up there in order to use the table locks. So that's one problem avoided. Now we need to get the scale mounted, I suppose. Onwards and upwards. Okay, so after a little bit of fabrication, we've got the Y scale mounted now. Just one hole we've had to drill in the knee casting to mount the rear here, and then there's a couple of holes to hold this freshly made bracket for the front, which we conveniently slotted to allow adjustment. Luckily the scale has some vertical adjustment in it by manufacture, so we've allowed a little bit of room here so we can move the bracket backwards and forwards, we can move the slide up and down, and that will allow us to get it to run nice and true with the table Y feed. And after a little bit of messing around, here we are, we've got it clocked in now, running nice and true. We've also clocked it in the other direction as well, so hopefully now we just need to build our bracket. Now we've got the slide and everything mounted, we can see that the bracket will pretty much come straight down and straight to the encoder. So that does simplify things a little bit, saves having to sort of step it across and what have you. Here's the start of our bracket. As we can see, we've got our extended table locks in place now, so that makes them nice and accessible. I haven't got to worry about trying to get my hands in there. So the next thing is we're going to mark and we'll bend this bracket. Obviously we've got to line up with this one here to move the encoder. So we'll get our angle finder out and see what we need for that. And after a quick visit to the folding machine, the bandsaw and the linisher, there it is. We're done on the Y scale. So this was the plate that we made up, nicely shaped, and we've also allowed a couple of slots in the bottom here to fit onto one of the original supplied brackets, which we finally managed to use one, and that gives us a little bit of vertical adjustment should we need it, plus it also gives us a little bit of horizontal adjustment through the slots in the original bracket. So hopefully that's 2 out of 3, unless we see any more problems. Well, this is the last piece of the Great DRO Challenge, and it's going to be the Z scale for the table up and down, and the only place we can put it is here. We've got the wiring enclosure on the other side, which is just going to make life extremely difficult, so it's got to go here. Plus we also need to put it this way round because of the slot in the back. We don't want that getting full of chips and cutting oil, etc. So I think we're going to have to make some more hardware, because the body of the machine is not plumb. It's, you can see here, it's off by just over 4 degrees. And this is what we've ended up with. We've done away with custom packers and spacers and angles and all the rest of it. Instead, we ended up nice bit of aluminium angle iron screwed to the body of the machine. The scale is obviously pivoted at the bottom with the same fixing as this. And then we've got a nice little strap here with a slot to allow us a little bit of travel in and out, so we can tram this up. Plus the top mounting hole for the angle iron is also slotted, which allows us to pull the scale backwards and forwards. And then this way we can get it running nice and true with the table. And hopefully we can also use one of the supplied brackets, the same as we did for the Y scale. We can use one of the original brackets to do that. And then the factory shit shield, for want of a better word, will fit over there. And that will help to protect that. Plus, once we get the Y cover back on, we should be good to go. Well, I've just got a little bit of machining to do on this bracket, ready for the final part of the final part. What's going on with that? Fuck's sakes! Do you know what? I fucking give up. Well, I suppose an explanation is in order, really, isn't it? Now I've calmed down a bit. Come here. I must have had a bit of a senior moment, that's all I can say. I think probably rushing, trying to get it finished. You know, the end is in sight, so to speak. Just a little bit of machining on the bracket and we're done. Great. Unfortunately, for some unknown reason, I'm so concerned about the Z travel, I completely forgot about the Y travel. And the problem is that the table feed motor crashes into the scale. Because I've totally forgot about the motor having to come back. I thought to myself, I've got a lovely bit of room there, look at that, no problem whatsoever, it fits there a treat. So, there was me concerned about reducing my Y travel. I've now reduced it to about 2 inches. Right, so we need to come up with a different plan. It can't go there. So much for it's got to go there, it can't go there. So, this is what we've come up with. It's the only place left to put it, to be fair. But hopefully that should work. It's facing away from the source of contamination, i.e. swarf and cutting oil, etc. So the slot should be fine. Anything's going to be disappearing past it. It doesn't hamper anything. Luckily, I can still get to me quill reverse switch, etc. So we just need to make a bracket now to come off of the encoder and down onto the knee casting. Which is where I thought I was, on the other side to be fair, but there you go. So that's going to be the next job. Luckily we managed to use the piece of angle iron that we used on the other side. So that gives us our adjustment this way, and it gives us our adjustment that way in order to true it all up to the table. Right, and here it is. This is the finished bracket for the Z-axis, sitting there nicely fixed to the knee casting and holding the encoder, and that's it, I think. Oh, we've got one more job to do, which is going to be to make some spring steel clips out of these tool clamps that you'd use in your shed, and that's going to be just to hold the trim on there, the dust shield, and stop the stuff going down the back. But here we are, all finished, done at last. The great DRO challenge has been met. And I must admit, I'm quite happy about that, to be honest. I knew it wasn't going to be easy when I looked at it originally, just purely because of there's nowhere to mount anything, etc. But it has really been a challenge, to be fair. But we got there in the end, that's the main thing, and now it's all done. It will definitely add a huge amount of functionality to the machine and improve the accuracy of the parts, etc., which, you know, can only be a good thing. And I can't really wait to put it to good use. And to complement the DRO, in the next video, we shall be fitting a quill readout. But until then, from Warco and myself, happy making.